right. How you doing, Eddie?
All right. What's up, Bruce?
All right. I'm doing well, and thank you for everybody for coming to our first edition of the Bounce Back here at Live Right. How you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. I'm excited to get the show rolling. We've been talking about it an awful lot. It's nice to see it to come to fruition.
Right.
I'm excited about our guest today. He's got a
36 years, I heard.
36 years.
That's wonderful.
Sobriety. And he was kind enough to help us set up our sound equipment, which was very cool.
It's a new education for me, there's no doubt.
He's also a sound man. He does film production, stuff like that. So he's got a lot of cool stuff. I'm really excited to interview him today.
Yeah. Let's give kudos to Rich behind the scenes, who is...
he's the one doing it.
Yeah, he's running the direction.
Yeah, Richard is the one doing it. And we appreciate you guys all very much.
So what's our first topic we're going, isn't it? Spiritual principles to the steps, right?
Spiritual principles to the steps. I'd kind of like to hear his spiritual the spirituality of his journey. You know what I mean? I'm curious of all this stuff. Get his insight. You know what I mean? I'm excited to hear what he has to say.
What's your definition of spiritualism?
Spiritualism? Well, in the program that I work, it just so happens that we are a spiritual program, not a religious program per se.
Sure.
As long as you have a power that you rely on that's higher than yourself, I believe you can get through anything. And addiction is one of those things.
Does it involve for you inner belief and inner peace and solace?
Everything, yeah. I got it right on my hand. Serenity, serene.
Right.
And that comes along with being spiritual. I wasn't spiritual when I found the program, Bruce. Believe it or not, I was not a spiritual person.
You're looking at one also, right?
Today I am.
You know how I found spirituality?
How?
And this is no lie. This is back in '99 when I was getting sober and I had my first sponsor.
How's that?
And he goes, get on your knees and see who shows up. And that's how I found it, because that's what broke my ego down. Obviously something did show up, and I called that my guy, and it made me realize, wow, something does have my back, and that I have to rely on that. And that was ego busting for me, which helped me with the first step, of course.
Sure.
It's total surrender. All right, with that being said, our first guest, Hugh. Come on in, Hugh.
Come on in, Hugh. Give it up for you, everybody.
Hey, the guest that lets himself in.
Well, until we iron out all the details, Hugh.
We'll get a string for next time.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. Thank you, Hugh, for joining us.
Yes.
Thanks for having me.
We're excited to hear about your journey, with recovery, and you got more years than anybody in this room put together, probably. So yeah, we're gonna learn today.
Right.
Well, backstage, I heard you guys say I had 36 years. I'm on my 36th year right now.
Okay.
I'll show you. Thank you for that.
Got a coin too?
The place that I hang out gives these out every year.
Nice.
And I got a fancy one for 30 and for 35. The regular years,
Can you get that in there, Richard?
I just use the brass ones.
35 years.
Sure.
That is a beautiful. Oh.
Well, hey, now. You know how many years of bad luck that is if you
Right,
drop
I was
that?
just going to say, right?
That could have been bad.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So what we do
that's
at I'm going to just keep it vague here, but at the group I call home, when people get tokens, we pass it around the table and everybody says a prayer over it and
Nice,
passes it around and
yeah.
recharges it. So when they get it, it's 150% full.
That's a wonderful idea, man.
That's
So,
sweet.
Yeah, go ahead and steal that.
I've seen that at meetings. We've done that at a couple of the meetings I attend.
Yeah. All right. Well, Hugh, we're in the basis of studying the spiritual aspect of the steps, and our upcoming shows we're going to go by each step and discuss how each spiritual aspect affects that step.
Okay.
But starting with you, we'd like to know a generalization, how spirituality affects one's recovery, how it affects one coming out of relapse, and how does it affect all the steps? How does it affect it generally? Spirituality. Let's start off with your definition of
That's
spirituality.
quite broad.
It is
Spirituality, Spirituality for me involves being a part of the greater whole, right? I'm an individual, and when I'm using, I'm the only thing that matters in my life.
That's right.
When I detach from that using lifestyle and need to become part of society, I don't know where to fit. I don't know where I fit in, right? So the spiritual path through step recovery, if that's what you're choosing, the spiritual path is created there. The steps are the path. I'll tell you more about that because my recovery was delayed because I was waiting to know my higher power before I moved forward.
Sure.
And so when I realized that doing the path was the spiritual connection, was me learning who my higher power was going to be and what our relationship was going to be, the end product of that is now how can I be of service to the world around me, whether it's the small world of my family, the larger world of my community, or what I'm doing, in my day to day. What am I doing to give back? Because I had created a lot of damage in my wake, right?
Of course.
And my journey now means not only taking care of each day, but where can I put in an extra 5 or 10% to help make up for the wreckage of the past?
Gotcha.
Yeah, I just posted something online the other day that said something to the effect of, my addiction affected everybody around me. I'm gonna do everything I can to make sure my recovery does as well.
Sure.
It's
That's
like
that's
that,
a
right?
great it's a great sentiment.
Yeah.
Have you ever struggled finding spirituality? And do you struggle once in a while in the present?
Struggle, yes, and the best part of struggle is knowing how to make it to your advantage, right?
Yeah.
Because I could very casually say, without struggle, I don't know joy.
Sure.
However, struggle builds character, right?
Yeah.
So everything that I did up to the point that I got sober created who I was. Now I learned in my inventory that was not all good. So, I chucked the bad stuff, but there was a lot of good things that happened to create the person I am, to, my creativity or what have you. So in order to continue to grow, I have to have struggles, and that struggle also is in my spiritual life, meaning, I still have moments where I think, and I don't want to be callous about it, but is this too big for my higher power? You know what I mean?
No, I think definitely
I
understand.
totally get that.
Yeah, right.
So, the best part of a life in recovery is that even though I may doubt the vastness of the higher power I still have evidence around me that it's going to be okay, that it's going to work itself out, as long as I don't get in there and make it worse,
Exactly.
as is my human tendency.
That sounds similar. Everybody around here hears me say, "My God makes me work at this."
Yeah.
Right. And as you said, if I take myself out of the equation and give the trust, that I have to give, and when I do that, things work out. Maybe not to my liking, but it's got to be for the best because you're still above ground and smiling and still have the same friends. But
Right.
So it can be like that.
I got a question for you, Hugh. So, we've learned a lot of lessons in recovery, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's the hardest spiritual lesson you've learned in your recovery?
Oh, the hardest spiritual lesson is patience.
Ooh,
Nice.
yeah.
The answers will come, but not in my time.
God's time could be tough sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
I like island time, but sometimes, God can see further down the road than I can.
As addicts, we expect that instant gratification.
Sure.
God's time doesn't really play that way, right? Not always.
How about in literature? I don't mean for you to pump up any authors or scripture or anything like that, but for our people out there that are struggling to find spirituality, what has helped you as far as your readings, audiobooks, podcasts? What has helped you in your early days to actually gain a foothold on the belief that there's some spirituality out there?
With a 35-year token, I'm pretty old school.
Yeah.
Good for
And the things, that are available now to new people coming in and new people looking for discovery, I don't, honestly, I don't even think of podcasts, but I know some of my sponsees and some other people in my group, they're like, this is how I learn, and it's amazing what's out there. And this is going to be an outlet for what's out there. For me, it goes back to the original 12. Yep. I've tried some other groups for different things, because whether you're a drug addict, whether you're an alcoholic, whether you're a gambling addict, workaholic, whatever it is, it's a spiritual malady.
Sure.
And it all boils down to how do I fill this hole with something positive, this hole in my heart, right? And I had struggles with what are called outside issues, and I would find myself going to other meetings, but the way the solution was laid out in those steps didn't speak to me the way it does in this big blue book. Right. And so my prayers, when my thinking needs to be put back on center, my prayers come out of this book. When I had to learn what it meant to be seeking a higher power. Sure. There's a chapter in this book that lays that out, because I grew up in a church-going family, but I didn't have a religious connection when I got here. Sure. So my literature has pretty much boiled down, to this book, and I do a lot of research. I do a weekly study with at a meeting where we break this down sentence by sentence. A book that was written in 1939 is going to have some heavy words and some kind of twisted understandings, I guess. So I went and got on eBay and I got a 1940 dictionary, so I know what did the word mean then, what does it so
I remember I came up in 99, my first attempt at recovery, and I grew up on Father Martin tapes.
Okay.
And I believe you know who he is. And my first sponsor did give me a dictionary of the back of 30. Actually, I don't have it now, but it was written in 35, because the book was written in 32, and what they meant back then. Mm-hmm. And it was helpful. And I find it a joy to read, because like I said, it takes me back to that time. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And the biggest thing for him was to tell him to have an open mind, and it will, spirituality will reach you. Yeah. You agree?
There are a lot. I just want to bounce off that is the original podcast, if you will, are speaker tapes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that was crucial for me. I'll lay it out here. At 11 years, I called it sobriety. At 11 years, I wanted to take my own life. I hadn't picked up anything in 11 years, but I was miserable. Yeah. I went through a horrible breakup, and, I was like, well, what's it worth? Let's just screw it all right now.
Yeah. And call that a dry drunk, right?
That moment in the driveway, clutching the wheel, someone pounding on the window, and I just was like, God didn't get me sober to live like this, right. And I sought a new sponsor. I sought a new relationship with this book, but I also found some amazing open talks from a couple of book thumpers out of Texas that blew my mind, and they all kind of came out of like the Joe and Charlie roots. Right? Right. So, those are just some powerful breakdowns of a complex message into simple terms.
Sure.
You know.
You ever heard of the Father Martin tapes?
No.
Look them up. Might learn something. No, they're fun. They're fun to listen to again because it is very, very old school. And anyway, I enjoy them.
I got a question for you. You said, you seem pretty connected to your higher power.
Mm-hmm.
Were there any times you felt abandoned by your higher power? How did you reconcile those feelings,
I would say I might have come into recovery feeling abandoned by the higher power.
Sure.
But it's because I didn't understand that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I know now that I'm the one that walked away. I'm the one that refused the message. So I can slip back into selfishness. I can slip back into, being a bad apple at times. And I don't think I can equate that to my higher power abandoning me. I think that's me losing my own spiritual connection for even a brief moment.
Sure.
Because it's about me taking responsibility for my actions.
Sure.
And my actions, if my actions in this moment aren't a representative of who I want to be, it's my fault. So
Sure.
I'm the one that has to. Maybe it's just saying the Serenity Prayer.
Sure.
Because
Sure.
I gotta find my center,
Yeah.
right? I get sucked up into mob thinking, right? Locker room talk or whatever. Boys will be boys, but at some point I'm like, that's not the person I want to be, whatever the situation is.
Mm-hmm.
And when I realize I'm not being the person I want to be, I'm not reflecting the best image of myself that I can.
Sure.
I back away from the situation. Maybe it's, go do a simple prayer in another quiet room. Excuse myself to go to the restroom and just get centered.
Yeah.
And then I can start my day over.
Nice.
I can think of times where I felt that way, where I felt maybe God isn't having my back the way I expect him to, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I wasn't feeling very spiritual at those moments, and I wasn't looking at the bigger picture.
Mm-hmm.
I got clean in 2020 for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
I found my program, and it was about 6 months or a year into my recovery, my first year, I went in for a small procedure. If you notice, I got this thing in my throat here.
That thing in your throat?
Yeah, I got an extra belly button.
Okay.
And what happened was I went in for a procedure, and the doctors, what they were trying to do is they were trying to just open my airway just a little bit so I could get more air in.
Okay.
When they cut me, my trachea collapsed.
Okay.
When my trachea collapsed, I went into congestive heart failure and flatlined on the table. They had to put a trachea in me
Mm-hmm.
Gosh.
for me to artificially breathe. They had me in coma for a few days, and I finally woke up. But when I woke up, I was so mad at God.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing I'm living by these words. I'm living by the book. I'm doing everything. Why couldn't you do this when I was living like a scumbag? You know what I mean? Why now when everything's going great? How could you do this to me? Right? I wasn't looking at the bigger picture, man. There's a lot of newcomers. There's a lot of people watching me stroll my little oxygen tank into meetings.
Right.
I couldn't speak at first. Believe it or not, I wasn't able to talk
Wouldn't that
first.
be a blessed time?
But I would have a friend with me at a meeting, and I would text my shares, and he would read my shares to the group.
All right.
And these are real things, right? But I wasn't looking at the bigger picture of what God was doing there.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he was using me to help somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Maybe, and I think
Putting
that's
the focus back on them, right?
right. I wasn't looking at it that way.
Nice.
Or even just, just recently, whatever.
Right.
Just-
No, I understand.
yeah. But I can relate, is all.
Definitely. Hugh?
What I would say to that real quick is,
Sure.
You said why wouldn't God have made this happen when I was bad or when I
Yeah.
deserved it or whatever?
Sure.
But when we're living in that world, that addicted world or that world of substance, it'd just be one other bad thing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have learned to appreciate the fact that you're still alive.
That's it.
You would have just you know it would have been just take me now, God. I've had you know what I mean. I've already got all this crap going on. Now you're doing this to me. You know what I mean? We have a tendency to blame God for all of these things, and then you know the idea of now I'm sober and bad things they should stop happening, right?
Right.
But they, you know,
forsaken me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also didn't look at the fact that I felt like a freak, right? I felt like a freak show. I had this big tube sticking out of my throat. Everybody looked at me weird, you know? And I was going, God, why would you do this to me? God also allowed them to put that tube in my throat to keep me breathing.
Right.
I'm here today by a miracle. It's a miracle that I'm alive because on paper I wasn't for a
you're
moment.
miracle upon miracle upon miracle.
That's right there, right?
Look at you stacking up the miracles.
Stacking them up, baby. That's it, you know. But that's how I truly feel today.
Mm-hmm.
When you asked me originally how I felt about spirituality, right?
Yeah.
What I wanted to say is the fact that we're sitting here talking about it shows me that there's something bigger than me out there.
Mhm.
Because there's been a lot of times where I shouldn't have walked away from certain
Oh.
situations.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yes.
And there's no denying to me. Every time, I hate going to a meeting and somebody going, you're in this chair. No, dummy. That's a gift from God.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a gift from God. The fact that
Mhm.
you're here and the fact that you made it to talk to these guys,
Mm-hmm.
it's a gift from your higher power.
Yeah.
And I don't take that for granted today.
Yeah. Hugh, what do you think is the hardest spiritual lesson that you've learned while you've been in recovery for 36 years?
The hardest spiritual lesson
Sure.
would be that don't take any day, person, or moment for granted, because case in point, you never, you know, from one day to the next, the blink of an eye, life can change.
That's right.
And and I'm saying it was a tough lesson in the sense that I was a instant gratification person.
Sure.
So the tough lesson was I'm not going to get everything I want right now.
Right.
Secondly, I might not even get everything I want,
Right.
but this higher power provides what I need.
Right.
You know,
Absolutely.
and again, taking every moment, you know, as if it's my last, it gives me an opportunity to embrace life on such a molecular level that I would have never appreciated using.
Yeah. It's huge. That's awesome.
Right on. Do you have any other questions? No?
Yeah. In what ways has spirituality helped you helped you mend relationships? You know, with yourself or others. You know, in what ways has spirituality helped in that area?
Having a connection to a higher power as I go through life. I didn't come here as a person with a big heart, with a giving heart, with a concern for others.
Sure.
So mending relationships was not top of mind. I mean, I went through people, I went through relationships, I went through jobs as if, you know, they mattered little, you know, and to demean people on that level, you know, in retrospect is disgusting,
Yeah,
you know.
Terrible. Right.
And so talking about mending relationships, you know, as far as, you know, making amends, making changes. It's not about saying I'm sorry, it's about doing better. It's about proving that I'm a changed person, that there's been a complete shift in my thinking, that I'm not going to behave the way that causes that that fractured relationship.
Sure.
You know.
Yeah, amends for me, like, that's a huge part of recovery, right? Making
Right.
your amends.
Sure. Jeez.
My people, the people in my life, never want to hear two things come out of my mouth again. I'm sorry,
Right.
and I promise.
Yeah.
Right.
It's all lip service.
Mm-hmm.
a living amends is the only amends
Do
I
it.
know how to make today.
Let's do it, right?
Proof's in the pudding.
Yeah.
You gotta show people, man. I have devoted my life for the rest of my life. I feel like I'm gonna work a powerful program for the rest of my life, so that I never have to say those words to my daughter again, to my family again, to the people I love again. Never again do I want to say I promise or I'm sorry, because it's all crap.
We don't want to see it, but I think it's good. Myself, I think I have to say I'm sorry. I mean, that's for my soul. That's just the way it is. I can say I'm sorry, but I know it don't mean anything.
Yeah, that's what I'll say it,
but
it's a wall.
I'm meaning it, but the recipient's like, yeah, okay.
As a recovered person, though, I think there becomes a time where that's a believable statement.
Sure.
Right? So it's not, I don't just make amends for the things I did when I was using.
Sure.
I continue to fail as a human.
Me too.
So, the idea that I can own up to a misstep
Yeah.
is huge.
It's huge.
Because I would have found a way to blame someone else or sweep it under the rug before.
Sure.
So being able to say I'm sorry now and someone believes me that it's heartfelt, it's not just the words, because I'm doing better. I have now, my track record is long enough that I've shown evidence that I'm on a path of a better road, right?
Yeah, proof's in the
So,
pudding.
I can, again, I can make promises, and if I can't live up to them at that moment, I discuss why now, instead of just, blowing it off or whatever.
So,
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Good stuff.
Good stuff. Wonderful show. What do you think?
I think this is great. A good way to
Then
start.
do I walk out and you guys finish up
If you
again?
don't mind getting up, opening the door for yourself and walking out, that'd be
Coffee
great.
and tea, crumpets, yeah.
It was really great having
Yeah,
you. We
Thanks.
appreciate you for all your help
I
today.
appreciate
thank you.
being here and you
helped
guys
us get up off
welcome
the
me.
ground. Your name will be in the credits when we start rolling them, right?
I would love to have you back to talk about what you do as a profession as well, on a professional level, because that is something that interests me very much.
What I will say, what I do professionally does not impact the greater recovery world.
Sure.
But the fact that I work in a world, I've always, I can't say always, but a good chunk of my life has been in the world of entertainment.
Sure.
Okay.
And that is a world that can be difficult to navigate to
Yes.
newly sober people.
That's kind of what I was getting at.
Right.
And so I don't know if I have great, I have experiences, but I don't know if I have great advice. But I would love to, I'd love to circle back with you guys.
We would
Heck
love
yeah,
that.
you will.
We would love that very
You
much.
will.
Thank you again, brother.
All right.
Thank you, everybody, for
Thanks a
tuning in.
Yeah, the bounce back.
The bounce back. And you can catch us, I think, in a couple of weeks, we're going to do another one. We'll
Yeah,
start
we'll-
off with step one,
We'll
right?
be back next week. Check us out every Friday at 2 o'clock.
Yep, and we have Henry
Noonan, Warren
Newman.
City Councilman,
Yeah.
coming as our next guest. He's a really good guy. He supports the recovery community. He came to my open talk last night, so that was cool. So next week we'll be here with Henry Noonan, Warren City Councilman.
Keep an eye out for us, please. And always be good to yourself and others. Thank you.
That's right. Have a good night.